This once more. 1, 2. Come on. Holy cow. This thing always crashes. Like every other freaking time. It just crashes. Either it crashes or the audio just cuts out. I don't know. Now, all I did is shut down OBS and start it again, and it works fine. So it's something obviously wrong with OBS. And wait. 1, 2, 1, 2. Make sure I get the right level. I don't even remember what I was talking about. 1, 2. Hello. What the heck? One. Hello. What? Why am I hearing myself from 5 minutes ago? Thank you. Thanks, Darren. I do not know. Now I'm hearing in my headphones like a delay from 5 minutes ago. And there's nothing here. What the heck? Where is this even coming from? What the heck? Okay. What the heck is going on? Oh. One, two. 1, 2, 2. Yeah, what the heck is it? I'm hearing from somewhere in my headphones something I said like 5 minutes ago. And there's nothing, I don't have the stream playing anywhere. This is crazy. It's not one, and I can't hear what I'm saying. Hey, Teresa Gallo. I don't know. Maybe I'll just put. I don't know what's going on, but I forget what I was even saying. But we were talking about John Coltrane and the Sex Pistols, and then my voice was cutting out. I gotta take this thing apart and just I'm not gonna listen to myself. It's annoying. I'm just gonna talk, and it's ostensibly it's assuming that it's gonna work. Anyway, and why isn't it showing up anymore? Anyway, I might as well go back to talking about John Coltrane. Why not? And then I gotta figure out after this why this thing keeps crashing. Go back to the message boards and figure it out. At least we got the John Coltrane back. So we were just check this out. Hello. Yeah, I think so. Here's the weird thing. When I play the video, I hear the audio back. But when I'm talking, I don't hear what I said like 5 minutes later, or at least like 2 or 3 minutes later. So I don't know if it's what I'm saying is syncing up with the video or not. Crazy. But I'm just going to take the headphones off and just talk, because then I don't have to sync up with anything. But do I think the Sex Pistols work on big stage? I mean, I haven't seen them live, but even when that, I mean, the video that I just showed, it was a pretty big stage. I mean, not like Madison Square Garden or anything, but I can't see why not. It's I mean, a good solid rock band with a good singer. I mean, why wouldn't they? If AC/DC works on a big stage and Van Halen works on a big stage, why wouldn't Sex Pistols? I mean, it's just, at least the way they're playing in 2007, 2008, they were super tight. The guitar sounds were, I don't know. He's using like modified Marshalls. It's it's way better than the way they sounded in the 70s. So it's just great songs played by, if you got a good guitar, bass, and drums band with a killer vocal, that'll work on any stage. That's easier to mix. That's easier to sound good than other, some certain things. I'm trying to think of this. I'm gonna take these headphones off because it's playing back what I said 5 minutes ago. But anyway, I mean, I'm trying to think of stuff that I've seen on big stages versus small stages, and anything that didn't quite work on a big. I mean, I think on a huge stage, let's say, arenas 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people. The sound is always tricky depending where you sit, because it's such an echo. Like I saw Springsteen, we had good seats, but because the Giant Stadium is so big, he would hit the drum and you'd hear the delay of the drum coming back as he was singing something else. So it was like hearing it in an echo chamber. So you really couldn't hear the performance clearly as if it was in a small stadium, especially those upbeat songs. Now it worked for Floyd, because the songs are a little bit slower, so the delay is less jarring. It just creates a feeling of space. So Floyd was good, and it depends where you sit. I saw David Lee Roth in a big arena, and it was so damn loud. Sometimes I didn't know what song he was playing. It was just. So as much as I like him in that arena, I don't know. But then I saw the Chili Peppers in Madison Square Garden, and they sounded good. So maybe it's just the mix. But I think it almost sounds better in a mid-sized club than it does in a stadium. The stadium, it's usually, and you don't know until you're in the stadium, because you could hear it, watch Live Aid and at a huge arena, or a video from a huge arena, and then it sounds good because they're taking a mix right off of the mixing board. But when you got you're actually there, it's usually less good. I mean, I've seen Metallica in a big arena, and I've seen them in a smaller place, and the sound is probably better at the smaller place. And I've seen Steve Vai in a bigger room, and I've seen Steve Vai really up close in a small place. He played at the Iridium for a PBS special, which is, I should check to see if it's out, because I wonder, actually I could look it up. PBS, Steve Vai, because I was in the audience. Actually, I think it did come out, because I was looking for myself in the audience. So I was at that show. If you get a chance, check it out. I don't know if this is the one at PBS, but Iridium, especially done for PBS, and Iridium, if you're not familiar with it, it's in New York City in Midtown, and it's like known as kind of like a jazz / fusion / rock club, and it just has a lot of musicians, a lot of guitar players. I mean, Les Paul would play there weekly until he died, and then you have guys like Jeff Berlin. I think I saw Jeff Berlin there live. I've seen Steve Vai there live. I've seen John Petitucci there live. It's Dave Weckl, Victor Wooten, Mike Stern, Scott Henderson. The sound is phenomenal in that room, and it's a small room. And if you get in there early enough, you're probably going to be sitting here, and the stage is going to be like 5 feet in front of you. That's and so I saw Steve Vai there, and I'm like, wow, I'm used to seeing him in big places. I wonder how it's going to translate to a small stage, because he's got these stacks of amps, and it was loud, but it wasn't so loud. They had it under control. Just the sound they have dialed in that room, because every act I've seen in the Iridium in New York is super clear. I've seen Vital Information plays there, like once a year. That's Steve Smith on drums. Steve Smith is the drummer from Journey. But people don't realize, and I didn't realize this, though. I kind of went to see Vital Information because I was a fan of Frank Gabali. But then I didn't realize, I'm like, Steve Smith? Why is the guy from Journey playing with a fusion guy like Frank Gabali? But then once I saw him, I realized he was very underutilized in Journey. Not that he plays great in Journey, but he's more of a, not saying a jazz drummer. He's so multifaceted. He plays jazz. He can play anything basically. But in Vital Information, his really heart, I think, is really in stuff like Vital Information. So if you're not familiar with Vital Information, with Steve Smith, it's basically Steve Smith's band. The drummer's got to be good when the band is there for the drummer. How often do you see that? People go to see the drummer. Maybe the Dave Weckl band. And actually, I did see, I think it was at the Bottom Line. I saw Vital Information with Steve Smith and Dave Weckl band on the same bill. And I met Dave Weckl, and he was a cool dude. I remember he put I told him, I made him a compliment. He's like, "Oh, thanks, dude." He still really liked the compliment, and he put his arm around me, and he's like, "Thanks, man," So he was, at least when I met him, he was a cool dude. But check out, let's see, I don't know, random Steve Smith thing. Here's Steve Smith at the Riddick. So we're just talking about And I doubt YouTube or Facebook will ding me for copyright on a drum solo. But we'll find out. Apparently this is a night in Tunisia, which is, you can tell from the drums, but his groove is like, playing multiple time signatures. Check it. What a great groove, that Latin groove. I've seen this guy live, and just sitting this close to him, where his camera is. If you could sit and just watch him play for hours. So, some musical, technically very advanced, but musically very tasty. If you're familiar with United Tunisia, classic jazz tune. You can't tell me jazz is a boring style music. I mean, this to me is as exciting as metal. It's fresh. When it's done right. This ain't no Kenny G. They used to have Frank Gabali on. He was more of a fusion guy. Now they have more of a jazzy guy. What's his name? Vinny Valentino. I keep forgetting his name. I've met him. I've met these guys. Baron Brown's been in bass with them forever. You don't even need the rest of the band. I can just watch Steve play like this for 2 hours now. I gotta go check out Vital Information again. It's been a while since I've seen them, a couple of years. I still go see them every year. I've actually brought friends who are not musicians to see them. So don't worry, you'll love it. Anyway, we can play the whole 13 minutes. It's weird. Guys, tell me if because I just heard me say Vinny Valentino on my headphones, and even though I said that like 2 minutes ago, so I don't know if it's just my thing, something with my headphones mix in the computer getting delayed, or if it's actually not lining up. I don't know, or maybe I'm just in a time warp. But anyway. Yeah, but what was the question? Oh, yeah, the Sex Pistols. Yeah, I think in general, best concerts I've seen. Well, I've seen some really. I saw Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. I saw him at Continental Airlines Arena, which at the time was Brendan Byrne Arena, and I saw him at another concert hall. I think it was in Philly or something. I think it was in Philadelphia, or somewhere in Pennsylvania. And all three times it was phenomenal. And they were all, you don't really get to see Billy Joel in a small room. It's Madison Square Garden or some arena. But he's always got a phenomenal mix. You hear the vocals, you hear every instrument. He's got a phenomenal band. He's got horns, obviously piano, guitar, all sounds great. I think it's tricky. I think it's very easy in a big arena for a band to get all mushy and washy. Like I said, when I saw Springsteen, when I saw David Lee Roth, there was issues with just the size of the arena, the echo alone. How do you manage that unless you really keep your volume, down, and you get a seat that just happens to be in a sweet spot, and there's no way it's going to sound great and clear everywhere in the room. But I've also seen, but yeah, there's a lot of mixing. I've mixed live things. Oh, good. Oh, I'm glad it's only messed up going through my headphones. Or maybe it's in my head. But I got to work on this computer thing because the OBS crashes for no reason, which is frustrating. It seems to happen. It didn't happen. The good thing is it didn't happen Saturday when we were doing songs. If you get a chance, we had a fun thing. We do every Saturday. It's always at least just me, and sometimes we have, like Karina, singer who sang on my albums, as some of the backups, a lot of the backups. And also sings in Lip Service, which is a cover band that we were playing every week. Sometimes we've done over 100 gigs a year, and a wide variety of music. Because we've done whole nights where we're just a dance club and we did everything dance, Rihanna, Beyonce, and other times it was just rock. We're doing Led Zeppelin, Bob Marley, whatever, White Snake. Because we have two girl singers and me, so between the three of us, we could cover. Cindy could sing like Barracuda. I could sing the Bob Marley. I could sing Johnny Cash. Pretty much wide variety. And then Karina also sings all sorts of stuff. Rihanna. And plus, when one's singing, the other two are harmonizing. So we could actually get something. Harmonies are very, very underrated in bands. I see too many bar bands where nobody sings harmony. It just doesn't sound polished. That can make or break, take you to from bar band to actually sounding really, really good band, whatever that's called, polished band. But what was my point? But anyway, yeah, it didn't crash Saturday. So 9:30 every Saturday, we're doing real music. This is just talking about music, which is fun. We usually get some interesting. Bob, what's up? Good to see you, or at least see you on chat. Yeah, I think Bob was on the 9:30, right, when we did a Saturday with Karina. So we're doing that, trying to do it every Saturday. I know it's 4th of July, but I think we're gonna still do it. It's safer to stay in anyway instead of going out with crowds these days with fireworks. Plus, by the time we do it, it's probably usually the fireworks are done by then, I think. But anyway, we'll be on at 9:30 doing that live stream. Speaking of Sex Pistols, I did learn a Sex Pistols song to do Saturday. So if you dig that, you want to join. I won't even tell you what song it is, but it's a good one. And I'm just working on my Johnny Rotten. Yeah, I was excited because that's just, I like songs that are just I'm looking forward to do just because they're fun songs. Instead of sometimes the band just says you got to learn this because it's a new hit song by somebody that I don't even care about. But Six Pistols, we learn. I'm trying to just because when you're doing gigs every week, sometimes you have less time to learn new songs, and you just kind of wing them at the gig, and then get them tighter, which is and then it's usually songs that or you're trying to do whatever what is commercially popular or whatever. We need to do this because people want to hear whatever the new what's this I can't remember his name. Anyway, the new hit tune or whatever. Essence of Punk Rock was a visceral experience. I'm reading Darren's comment, where the audience was right in the band's face. True. Big venues and other buffer zones seem to a bit polite for some bands. I get what you're saying. I mean, all those bands will not. It makes me think of like CBGBs, and Six Pistols. I don't think played CBGBs, but the Dead Boys did, which were the American, American Sex Pistols kind of, and obviously, cool, definitely. Saturday's fun. We're kind of getting. We're getting dialing it in, I think, where it's starting to sound pretty good. Because at first I was just experimenting with mics and sound, and it was muffled and muddy, and the thing would freeze. And the camera, I finally got the camera. If you can tell from this, the camera is pretty. I got to going 1080p. Although I'm gonna have to downgrade it because if it keeps crashing, maybe I have to just narrow the bandwidth or something. But we've got the sound and lighting down pretty good in the room. Switched out. I'm using a KSM 32 mic now. The last couple of live streams, I was using a Perlman TM1, which is a phenomenal mic, but it's a big condenser tube mic, so it's really good for vocals. It's what like Sinatra or somebody would have used, back in the day to get the nice warm, or the Beatles, full warm vocal. But when you're actually putting a mic in the audience to capture the whole sound of the band as a whole, you want something that's a little more flat. So a KSM 32 is like a good working man's mic. I'll show you. I got it over here. Here's the KSM 32. So it's like the poor man's U87. It's just a really good, but it works great. I use this, if you see that Red Flags live video here, I'm using this on the overheads for the drums. Just a good all-around mic, clear. And listen to the first week I used it, it was a little bright. Thanks. From the last Saturday, the dirty sound's coming across very nice. Yes, that's a pedal. I mean, I have a Tone King Imperial Mark II. You'd see it in the videos. You can't really see it from here, but and that's basically like a Fender-ish kind of amp. But I set it up where it's just a little bit crunchy. Like if I hit it really hard, the clean starts to crunch just a little bit, like a Tom Petty-ish, whatever. And then I'll throw on lately, and I'm always changing this. I have a Wampler Plexi Drive, which is the pedal that has like a British flag on the front, kind of. It's just a good flexible, overdrive. But I think it starts with the amp sounding good already, and that just gives it a little bump. And that overdrive isn't like a metal, distortion box. It doesn't really. I have the gain all the way up, and I have it running at, for those of you guys who knew pedals and overdrive pedals. Most pedals run with a 9-volt power supply, but other pedals are capable of running up, with a 12-volt or an 18-volt power supply. And when you run a pedal with a higher power supply, you get more headroom, which means more dynamics, less distortion, less compression, which I kind of like because it gives you have to work a little bit harder, because I played friends' rigs. I was in one band when I was just singing. I know, yes. Oh, yes. I have zero phase. That's good. It's my point because I played with sang in one band where I wasn't playing guitar. I had another guitar player, and he was using like a boogie rectifier or something. But I picked up his guitar once just to play it, and it was so distorted. I was like, no matter how you touch it, it just sounds the same. It's just and just noisy, and I couldn't. I was like, "What are you doing, dude?" It wasn't just a little bit more gain. It was just like 1,000 times more gain than I would ever use, even if I was doing a Metallica tune. And some people will come, the show, and my girlfriend at the time, who was also knowledgeable about bands and was in bands, she's like, that guy's amp sounds like a can of bees, dude, which stinks, because and the guy was a good player, but I've seen that a lot. People come in where I play with other people in other bands, and they come with a Line 6 thing, and it sounds, and put it next to a 2-Rock that I have a 2-Rock also, which is phenomenal, or Tone King. It's just like, it doesn't, one sounds real and warm, and the other one sounds like a can of bees next to it. But when I got one big compliment, I was filling in for one band that was looking for a guitar player. They wanted me to be in the band, but I was too busy, so I filled in here and there, and they have 3 or 4 or 5 different guitar players that were filling in, that are like the session guys on the circuit. And the one guy from the band was like, "Man, your guitar sounds so warm. What is that?" And I don't think it was the guitar, because I was let me change my visual. My camera went out, but I think you could still hear me. I'll just switch cameras. Easy enough. Nope, I just got to point the camera at my face. Here we go. I got the other camera, so that's not the best camera, but you can still see me. Yeah, he was saying that, your thing is so warm. Most people come to play with this band. It was kind of a rock band. They come with like a Marshall stack or whatever. And like, I could, I try to err on the side of too little gain, which sometimes it's like, if I want to rip, it's harder than if I had like a Friedman, and I've had Friedmans and they're cool amps. But I could either try to get a overdrive, kind of like a triple rectifier, and then try to clean it up, which never sounds right to me. Or I could try, basically, this is a clean amp, and dirty it up with some pedals. And I think I kind of have it dialed in where kind of, if you definitely don't want fizz. I usually cut the highs. If you look at the amp, the high, and it's generally, I play with the Telly, which is generally kind of a bright guitar. And at least lately I've been playing the Telly. But I have the highs on the amp down, and I even have the lows on the amp down, because Fenders usually are scooped the bottom and the top, But I'm actually kind of pushing some getting mid range back by bringing the highs and lows down. There's no mid control on this, but it seems to work, But the guitar I'm using is a G&L ASAT special. Well, it's basically like a Telly, but those pickups are more they're not quite P90s, but they're kind of like P90s. So Tellys are generally, I like Tellys because, I don't know, they kind of fit in the mix really nice. They give you more punch and dynamics than like a Les Paul would. That's just a little bit fuller. It's easier to rip on a Les Paul because the notes kind of like pierce through and warmer, but they don't have as much punchiness and dynamics and nuance when you're plucking them. And the Strats can get thin and sometimes get buzzy, and they're tricky. Strats are kind of one of the harder guitars to fit in a mix, I think, because they could really easily get harsh. Tellys can too, but the ASAT, it's weird. It's punchier. It almost cuts through a mix more, but it's not thin and it's not harsh on the top, even though it's very bright. But it's not bright like brittle bright. It's like punchy bright, nice, So that's a really cool guitar. It's a little, if you want to rip, if you want to do a Steve Vai thing, it's harder to do on a Telly. It just doesn't, it's more meant for dynamic and punchy. So you have to, sometimes it's a little frustrating because I want to do and it's Satriani kind of riff, and it's harder. It's just so dynamic, and I'm not putting a ton of gain on to get a better sound. But it's a matter of I have to kind of work the guitar a little bit differently. But overall, the tone and the sound works. I like punchiness, dynamics, and that guitar really is the punchiest guitar you're gonna get. It's just poppy, punchy, and not brittle. And you could do a country thing without it. Like I have my other Telly, which in the bridge position you could do a Paisley type of country twangy thing, but it's so twangy that it doesn't quite work as well for rock. Although I've done gigs with it and rock and it works, but I forget what I was saying. Yeah, Les Paul between. I have a Les Paul Gold Top. Actually, is it here? Here it is. I can show you. Les Paul Gold Top, beautiful guitar. The neck is really nice on this. It's nice looking guitar. It sounds great, distorted. I could never get it to sound the way clean wise. It sounds honky to me. It sounds like the mid range is weird. I mean, it's I've seen people get good clean sounds out of a Les Paul by backing off the volume. I just, you know, maybe I don't know. And this is a stock pickup here, and my friend Thurlin, he makes pickups from scratch, so he has pickup designs, and I have a few guitars with those custom pickups, and I think that's better than the stock pickup. So if I was gonna do on a record a lead, and I've done gigs with this that were mostly rock, and it's fun. It definitely has that sound. Throw this through a Marshall, a Plexi, or something like that, and it's, cool. But I really use this, as much as I like it, and the neck on this is really nice. It's fun to play. Although for my hands, it's out of tune. It's not in tune, but the Les Paul scale length seems to force me to stretch a little more than I'd like on certain things, compared to the SG, which I think is upstairs. I like the fingerboard on an SG, and I like the lightness of an SG, and it gets you a similar enough sound to do a rock crunchy thing that you can with Les Paul, but I think it's more flexible. Plus, these are freaking heavy. It's just too heavy. I was thinking about selling it, although it's so pretty, and it does sound good, and but I think I actually put this up on Reverb for 1900, 1800, whatever. I don't play it that much, and it's like one of those things. Sometimes you put something up because you don't play it, but then when you sell it, you're kind of sad. It's like, do I really want to sell this? You hope the person just changes their mind, but if you don't, if you hardly ever use it and it's worth $2,000 or whatever, put it into something that you're gonna play all the time. Let me put this back before I drop it. Now I got this one. This is a whole different story. This is a Dean. I think they call this a blue starburst. I forget what it's called. But this was the second electric guitar that I ever had, and the first one was a Lark, which you're probably like, I never heard of Lark. Probably not, because I don't know. It was like I'm probably 10 years old or something. My first guitar was an acoustic guitar, which Dad got me. It was like a Giannini and whatever. I don't know what something he got at a local guitar store for a beginner. I think it was nylon string. Yeah, it was nylon string. And then after like a year or two of lessons, I wanted an electric guitar because I wanted to play Led Zeppelin and stuff. And I had a Lark, which I don't have anymore. It was a inexpensive, probably Sears type of guitar or something. One of those beginner guitars. And then this was my first kind of real guitars. I've done tons of gigs with this. This was like my main guitar for a few years. It's got a good sound. I haven't plugged it in for probably years, but I don't want to sell it. When I couldn't, it's probably only worth $300-400 anyway. But and it's kind of got this nostalgic value. And I'm not sentimental, and I'm not nostalgic. And I sell guitars all the time. I don't hold on to guitars. I don't collect. I have friends that have basements with stacks. Like stacks of $3,000 guitars. A friend of mine, worked at a guitar store, so we'd always get, he's a rep for a company that buys guitars, so he's always picking up guitars at, I guess good prices from the dealerships or whatever. But he's got stacks and stacks and stacks of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 guitars. People collect them. Well, what's the point? It's good to have a couple of cool looking ones on the wall, but if I don't play it, what's the point? It's like cluttering up my house. I'm not I have enough gear. It's funny. I have friends come in and they're like, I have amps and stuff. It looks like a music store in my living room, but I've been trying to sell the stuff off. I sold, how many I had a dozen pedals online, and like every week someone was buying a pedal, and I was like, oh, good. I didn't care about the money as much as that I'm clearing out my living room, because if I haven't, you don't need 15 overdrive pedals. I have maybe one or two that I use, and maybe a third one because it's got a unique sound that I might use in the studio. But of course, you're always like, well, yeah, but it's got that one sound, and if I ever record a reggae tune that wants that envelope filter, I'm gonna need it. Like, So I'm trying to sell stuff off and not buy too much more stuff. But here's, Dean, made in USA. This is from I probably bought this in the 80s, 84, 80, trying to think, maybe even before that, early 80s, because I had and I probably have videos somewhere, me playing with a band, a garage band. I think we called ourselves Fantasy or Ecstasy or something like that, which is probably a lot of bands, garage bands in the 80s called themselves something like that. Um, but I started with this guitar, and then one of the stores I had was a Yamaha dealer, and I bought a Yamaha guitar at the time, which is really a cool. Rick Emmett was using Yamahas. I don't know too many other players that use Yamahas, but they made a pretty good guitar. I sold it. It was a nice race, but they had a really good bang for your buck guitars at the time. They still do. I mean, because they're not. There's a lot of bands, a lot of guitar makers, like GNL is another one, where they make really good quality stuff, and it's not the cool brand of the day. You know, you could get them, especially in new or on the used market for much better price. Even like the Carvin stuff has always been a really good bang for your buck. I think now they make Kiesel, which is more expensive. I don't know if it's any, but I've been to the Carvin store on Sunset Strip in L.A. and all the guitars are very well made, good quality control, well designed, good unique sound. Although I didn't find anything that was for me, I kind of always lately, at least last few years, gravitate to traditional sounds. I'm not looking for a modern guitar. I'm not really. In the '80s I did Ibanez, and I had an Ibanez Jam. But lately I'm going for, if I'm playing a Strat, I want to be like a Steve Ray Vaughan kind of sound, or if I'm playing a Telly, Danny Gatton, or just traditional, Billy Squier album, like rock, 70s, 80s classic rock sound, or Les Paul. I want, it's like Free, or Zeppelin, or whatever, SG, AC/DC. These are the sounds that I like. Yeah, the Japanese stuff, almost any of the Japanese stuff is pretty well made. They have really good quality control. Some of the Japanese made, like Ibanez ones, are sought after. It's the ones that are made in China that usually the quality control goes down. China, Indonesia, Mexico. Although, I got a Mexican bass here. So I got Fender. If you want to save some money, yeah, this is a Fender Jazz. Is it a Jazz bass or yeah, it's a Fender Jazz bass. So I use this on all my demos and stuff. I'm not a really good bass player. Uh, anyway, but I carry my own on the bass. It's funny. I did some demos with Donna, the bass player, that was on my record for almost all the tracks. I sent her a demo of me, and I'm playing the bass on the demo. I'm like, I need you to play bass on this. She's like, you played sounds fine. Why do you need me on that? Which is a big compliment, because she's a phenomenal bass player. I'm like, dude, you're gonna play better. I know. I'm okay. I could cover the bass, but the bass is a critical part of that record, man. And it's weird. It tells you. I always tell people it's like the performance. Mixing is a big part of that mix, because I remember, I had my bass line and I'd listen to the mix, and then Donna comes in and plays the bass line. Didn't play anything radically different than what I did. She put her own little style into it, but all the bass just sat in the mix better. Why? Because she was so in the pocket with the drums. There's no other reason. Just what she played was just so much more pro sounding. And I was in time, and I was playing, but just, and she wasn't doing anything phenomenally fancy. It was a simple song, but it just sat in the mix better, because she could flock in with that drum more like I can as a bass player, and she didn't play. We were going sound wise, we were going through the same DI box. I have a Designs Ready box, which is great for bass. I use this bass, she used her bass, but this is probably more expensive the bass than hers. She is. That's another example. I played with Donna for years, and she's only used one rig for the whole time I've known her. One bass and one amp. I think she only owns one bass and one amp. It's like an Ibanez one of the less expensive. It's probably $400 new, if that. The bass. Now, this is someone who plays bass for a living for 40 years. She's been on stage at Woodstock playing with, Clinton, Bertie Worrell, and done all sorts of, recordings. And so she's, been around the block as a professional bass player, played with all sorts of people, label people, things like that. And she comes with a $300 bass. That she's, and people are like, people like make fun of it, but she's like, I like it. Feels good, sounds good. And then her amp, she's been playing the same amp since the 80s. She's like, I got this amp in like 87. It's like a PV. If you picked the one up used now on eBay, it'd probably be $200, And funny, I played with another session, Eric, who was like a well-known session guy in Manhattan. He had his own studio. And in the studio, he had a PV, like one of the cheap PV bass amps. Those bass players know that bang for your buck, those old PV bass amps were solid and fat sounding. They're heavy, but you could throw that down a flight of stairs and it's still going to work. Yeah, maybe it's not as going to sound as good as an Epiphany or whatever. But, I've played with guys who came with an Epiphany rig with the rack and the compressor and $3,000 6-string bass, a rig that costs more than, your car, and they didn't sound 1/4 as good as Donna did on the $200 amp and the $300 bass. So it tells you it's the player, man. People always have these bloodbath arguments on forums about, what amp, it doesn't matter. I mean, I've done gigs with $400 guitars that I like better than $3,000 guitars that I have. You don't need to spend a ton of money. Find one you like. Don't it's gotta sound good. I see people playing like a crappy Line 6 amp, and I've seen people. I had a guitar player that played with me that had I don't know if it was Line 6, but was some kind of modeling thing he would put into the PA, and he spent a lot of time, and he got it. It sounded good, but it didn't sound as good as I don't think it would sound as good as, let's say, this rig does sound, which is a mic'd amp, but that's a whole nother controversy. But yeah, there's the Fender Mexican stuff for the bang for the buck. I mean, you get a USA made Fender for $1,200. I've played ones that were like $350 new for a Mexican telly, and it played good and sounded good. There's no reason, and even G&L has their, I think it's called the Legacy or Tribute or something like that, which are basically, I think they're made in Indonesia. So it's like you have the American-made G&Ls, which a new one is like $1,200, $1,400, $1,600, depending on what. Every one you buy new is custom ordered. So it's the equivalent of a Fender custom shop. Like Fender has, you buy it off the wall and it's the signature Eric Johnson model or the Eric Clapton model or the whatever. And you get what, that has a standard thing. And if you want it in the I want a custom sparkle finish or just different kind of pickups or different kind of neck or whatever, then you have to go and custom shop, and now you're going to pay $1,800, $2,000, some crazy amount just because it's custom. But G&L, everything is custom. You just order what you want. I want the red sparkle finish with these pickups, with the rosewood, or the ebony neck with the maple and whatever, these tuners. So it's everything is a custom order. Where else can you guys, usually when you have a custom made guitar, where you're picking everything, it's going to cost you a money, but you could get that. And then what's cool is if you go on Reverb, if you say, I don't want to buy one new, everyone's different because they're all custom. So it's like there's a red sparkle and a green sparkle and a seafoam green one and different pickups, and one's got an F hole, and there's all different ones, and you pick up one that has a cool, So I have 4 G&Ls, an SC3, which is basically a killer Strat type guitar, and then I have the Fulton's. It's just another Strat that has a humbucker in it. Really flexible guitar, because what some of those models, the Fullerton models on the Strats have, is they have a high end and a low end EQ, which is rare for a guitar. So I could take down. It has a wider range than a normal Strat, but I could pull back the low end or pull in the high end, and it sounds more like a traditional Strat. One weird thing I found just on accident, I was playing at a club that had bad electricity. So I was stuck with, there was only one position that didn't buzz like crazy. There was like the second position, because the mix between the two pickups, something, I don't know, it wasn't buzzing. But that position didn't work for, you know, it worked for clean. It didn't work for if I was playing ZZ Top or anything rock. But what I did is I rolled down the top end, and it got a fuller fat sound, and it almost sounded humbucker-ish. And I was forced in to try to dial in something that worked, because I'm trying to play rock stuff with this single coil split sound, and I sounded full, and I was like, wow, this guitar is really flexible, because it has two singles, a humbucker. You could split the humbucker, and then you can roll off the high end or the low end and dial in all sorts of stuff. It's probably the most flexible guitar that I own. I like guitars that are flexible, because I need clean, funky, James Brown clean, or Niles Rodgers clean. But then I also want to play a lead that's like, they have Van Halen or something like that you need a lot of gain. And you want a guitar that can handle that. But I want traditional sound, so I'm not crazy about I'm not looking for a overly processed or overly compressed sound like I love Satriani, I love Vibe, but I don't want to do something that's going to take a rack of stuff and a million different patches to just get the sound. I've done that, but I want to have a clean sound, a crunchy sound, a lead sound, and then and some pedals for different things. And you can cover a lot of ground that way. There is an amp. Metropolis makes a DLV, which is a super flexible amp, which is basically like a hyped up Marshall that has a lot of different options to it. But I don't want to, I've been emailing him back and forth. He's been saying for like last year he's designing a 50-watt version. So I've told him I want a 50-watt combo that can do that. And that would be really cool, because it gets really great, phenomenal Marshall sounds, which I kind of miss. I kind of get close with this, but this is still a Fender that's kind of getting gainy. And if that can get a clean sound, I'm curious to try that amp, because the Metropolis amps sound really cool. But I forget my point. But if I was like, when I teaching students, there's just so many. They're like, what guitar should I get? There's just so many options. It's the golden age of gear, which is interesting, because they say guitar is dying out and everything's hip hop but I don't know. I mean, there's so many pedal companies, so many amp companies. There's so much cool gear coming out, new pedals and new amps coming out every day, new technology, model. I would say modeling, but those digital things, and they're getting better. I still love my tube amps. I haven't heard a digital amp, but I remember back in the day playing in casinos, and because they're very, they have 5 bands in a day, and it's like one comes off and the other one comes, and their efficiency is really important. So they'll have like a back line that's all plugged in already, and you just plug into it, and there's patches, and and I hated that, because it never sounded right to me. And, you're basically hearing everything through headphones. It's all in line, all direct. Like Bally's Casino was like that. The Sands Casino was like that. Borgata was like that. It was like all line 6 direct into the board, and I was just struggling to get a sound that didn't sound like an AM radio. I mean, it sounded decent in the audience, because it was going through a good PA, but 3 little headphones. I even bought better in-ears, like the expensive live ones, and it was better because it gives you more bottom, but it sounded buzzsaw like to me. But what was my point? But the technology has gotten a lot better since then, to the point where I know people that are tube amp nuts that have stacks and stacks of boutique tube amps in their house, and they're even saying, hey, I'm kind of digging this new digital stuff. When you get those people saying, the gear snobs like me, or not try not to be a gear snob, but people who are really into like getting, just the right cool gear that sounds a certain way. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be just the right thing. Like I have a Fender Blues Junior. I love that thing. I bought I think it has a special speaker. It's, has slightly modified with, I think, a better quality speaker. But for the most part, I think it costs like $350 or $450. I paid for that. It's not a lot for a little, combo amp 10-inch. I've done gigs with it. And I've done like gigs with the band, not just little duo gigs, but gigs with the band, and it sounds good. I mean, I've used it on the back line on gigs at festivals. and that was just part of, and it's got a good sound. If you turn the preamp down and the master up, it's got a really nice, clean, warm, punchy, clean sound, and you throw a pedal on it, and because it has tubes, it kind of works. If all my gear died and got burnt up in a fire, for less than $1,000, I could get a setup that would work, that I could gig with professionally. I get like a Blues Junior, a couple of pedals, it's just maybe a gain pedal or purple plexi or something that and you could do a gig that way, and then just work your volume. That's what I might want to get a modification on that ASAT to get to put a treble bleed on there, so I could work the volume a little more. I never quite. There's only like 1 or 2 guitars that have that. I really got it. I keep changing it and different capacitors and different pots. So because most of them you want to work the treble, but it just never works. It's like it just does something that dulls the sound, and even if you have the treble bleed on it, it's like you drop a little volume and then it drops way off, and it's like you only have this small amount of range. I'd like to be able to go like you'd see like a guy like what's his name that still got the blues for you, what's his name, anyway, Gary Moore, and he would he would just always have a high gain like SLO type amp, and what do you call it, the SLOs, I forget the name. Everybody knows what those are, though. But the real high gain amp, but then he would back off on the guitar. He didn't have any pedals. A lot of these guys, Angus Young doesn't even know pedals. Stevie Ray Vaughan had like one tube screener, and then he would work the volume. I'd love to do that because it's convenient and you get a lot of just use your feel to get different sounds. But I think you need to get that treble bleed going, or else you lose the volume and then you get lost in the mix because you're losing volume and pushing the amp. Anyway, I forget. So that's one thing I might want to get tweaked on that. Soldano, yeah, that's what. Yeah. See, when you're on the fly, when you're live, you can't always think fast. But yeah, the Soldano stuff. I mean, just listen to Gary Moore, or Warren Haynes. It's a few times that I've been watching live shows, and I'm like, damn, that's a killer gain sound. And then I looked at the backline, Soldano. And he still it was weird. There was something where he thought he was going out of business, but now he's making amps again. For a minute there, people were trying to buy up all the Soldanos because they thought he was going to be out of business, and it would be like the Klon or something. Which I had a Klon, as well. At my Klon story. So most people who know pedals know the Klon. It's become legendary. So, but I was at a studio in New York City, Ultrasound, and Ultrasound is a mostly rehearsal studio, high-end rehearsal studio, and you go in some of these rooms and they have literally stacks and stacks of boutique amps, Diesel, Bogner, Soldano, the Tony Bruno, Turok, in one rehearsal room, stacked up. And there's a guy, I forget his name, but he used to work there. He used to sell the amps out of the place. So you would go into one of the rooms and you just try the different amps, and then you could, it's probably the only place you could try all those different boutique amps in there. And another thing he showed me was the Klon. I was looking at the Turok, and he's like, oh, if you put a Klon in front of it, it's really killer. I'm like, what's a Klon? This is new. When the Klon was new, he's like, oh, this is a cool pedal. It's only, and I didn't buy it from there, but I wound up calling the guy from Klon. Was it Jim? I think the guy's name is Jim. And I talked to him on the phone. He talked to me for like 20 minutes about the pedal, what it does, what it doesn't do, and so I ordered one, and I was a little, it's like, at the time, I'm like, that's a lot of money. So I'm talking to the guy, asking him questions for 20 minutes whether I should buy or should not buy this pedal. And at the time, there was less. You didn't have all these JHS and Wampler. Now, if you want to buy a gain pedal, there's like 30 companies, and a new one coming out every week, and they're all really good. It's just like which one to decide. Bill Finnegan, yeah. So I spoke with him for 20 some odd minutes about the Klon and what it does, and he's like, it's not a distortion pedal. It's a clean boost pedal. It's just gonna take the amp and push it a little harder. I'm like, so to me at the time was a big deal. I was like, $200 for a pedal? You could almost buy an amp for that, but I'm like, fuck it, you know, uh, you know, why not? So I bought it and it was cool. I liked it and I used it. Didn't think much of it. I had tons of pedals, and it was just one of the pedals that I had. I did some sessions with it that were like blues sessions where I think I had a Fender, like a '68 Fender Blackface or something. Little amp, cranked it. I did a recording. It was a blues recording session. Cranked it and put the Klon in front of it. I just had gotten the Klon that week, or pretty recently, so it was a cool new toy to play with. And the guy who did the song, I was a recording session for this guy who wrote a blues tune, and I was playing just blues on it, blues like Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of stuff. And the guy loved it. He's like, that guitar sounds pissed off. He's like, what pedal are you using? It just sounds angry and pissed off. This is a crank Blackface with a Klon. No, nothing else. And I used it for that. For blues, it worked. But then, went on the shelf with a lot of stuff, and I pull it out once in a while. Then one day I was like just going online on eBay, and I'm like, I saw that they were going for like $800, 7, 8. I'm like, what? Why? I thought I was like looking up the wrong thing. And so I sold it. I put up on eBay, and I sold it for like $750 or something. And I was like, this guy is crazy. Why would he pay that much money for this pedal? I mean, I paid $200 for it. I made $500 in profit for a pedal that I use once in a while for a session, which I have. I was like, wait, because actually that ties into the other story I have about why I was buying and selling new pedals. Because I had a board that I had put together at the time that had some nice pedals on it. It had a script logo Phase 90, like the one I have now, but it wasn't this one. You'll find out why. So I had a Phase 90 script logo from 1976 that I had. It sounded phenomenal. It might have even sounded better than this one because they all sound a little bit different. They're old. I had some other really cool pedals. I had a like one of the boutique tape delay types of pedals. It wasn't real tape, but it was a tape emulated pedal, like a $350 delay. I was starting to get into, and there was a couple of Wampler pedals on there. I had a Wampler, the Brown Sound one, the not Plexi Drive. My mind doesn't work that fast. But the red Wampler that people have that gets the Van Halen sound, really dug that. I had a K&M Designs Kalamazoo. Some really nice pedals on there. Really nice. And, I'm doing gigs constantly. There's a gig in Manhattan, Midtown, Uptown Manhattan, Flanagan's, I think it was, a rock band. And usually what I do is I just keep all the gear in the car. So bring the PA, put it in the car. I don't unload the car when I get home. I just park it in the back. It's safe. It's gated. At least the gate to the backyard, whatever. So I don't, unload or anything. I keep it in, and then, the pedals. I bring the guitar in, and I bring the amp in because I don't want that sitting in a car going hot and cold. So I went sometime, a week or so later, I go to get the pedal board because I was doing a recording or something. And it's not in the car. I'm like, I've done like several hundred gigs, never had a problem, but and I'm thinking of the last gig, as we were loading, sometimes friends with the band come and you got 5 and 6 people who know nothing about gear, nothing about helping you load out. And they mean well, but apparently either, I don't think anybody, I don't know if somebody stole it or they just, what happens when people are trying to help you, they don't know. So they just start bringing stuff out. They leave it on the curb. They go back in. I'm like, you just left $5,000 of gear on a curb in New York City. That's not a smart thing. I've known people who had a guitar in a case backstage or on the stage and get it stolen out of the club. So don't tell me that it's going to be safe. You're leaving it on the curb for 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Even in the good, this is a nice area in New York City, and the crime is very, very low in New York City the last 10 years. I really never had any problems. But I would not leave, but somebody probably left it on the curb leaning up against the car or something, and I'm not inventorying everything that I put in the car. I mean, I just, if the stage is empty, I assume everything's in the car. Sometimes they put it in the wrong truck because, they have a couple of band members that have different gear. Sometimes they do that. I called the girl singer. She has a van. And like, could you check your van? Hey, Andrew. We're just talking about guitars and amps and stuff. Oh, it's fun. Guitar. Andrew also plays guitar. So I was telling about how my pedal board, it went missing. And I was like, I still have, it still freaks me out because that was a really nice pedal board, especially the Phase 90, because that was a 1976 box Phase 90. I eventually had to buy a new one because I needed that sound. But basically, that pedal board was gone. So I was in the process of kind of figuring out, okay, do I want to replace everything or do I want to reevaluate? So it set me on this whole path of trying all sorts of different things, which in a way, at least something good came out of it because I did a lot of research, tried things, and came up with a whole different new set of sounds. So I think the sounds I have now are better than overall than what I had set up on that pedal board. I've really done a lot of trying things and researching and tweaking different sounds. So I think my concept of sound and using pedals and all that is much more evolved than it was then. So maybe it's a good thing in the long run, I guess. But at least they didn't steal the Klon. The Klon was not on that board. If there was the Klon on that, because now it's worth, I see people selling that for over $2,000. I would have been very upset. I mean, but the script low, you could probably buy a new one for like $250. Yeah, the Andrew remembers there was a place on the Upper East Side called O'Flanagan's, and the pedal board went missing. And I didn't realize till days later. And I called the club. They couldn't find it. So I'm thinking probably somebody went to help, probably leaned it up against the hydrant or whatever, and it's dark out, and I'm assuming, because my assumption is nothing's left on the stage. I look next to the stage, around the stage. Nothing is there. So it's, then we're packed, right? And that works. The last 2,000 gig sets work fine. But then when somebody is helping out and they put something, leave it in the hall or leave it by the hydrant or leave it up against the truck, they didn't know where to put it. They didn't put it, I'm a little OCD because you have to be in the professional world. You kind of have to be a little OCD, like everything in its right place. Because when you do 1,000 gigs, you can't forget to bring something, or you can't forget to, you can get to the next gig and be missing the cable. I have like duplicate cables of everything because you just not an option to get to the gig and be like, oh, we don't have enough mic cables to do the show, So you have to have backups and backup plans for everything. I don't have a backup mixing board, which but that's kind of. But even if the mixing board died, I could probably figure out a way to get it to work with some of the power. I could get through the gig with a couple of the powered speakers running mics into them somehow. One time I forgot the mixing board. One time. And I've done a couple of thousand gigs, few thousand, I don't know, 3,000 gigs, I don't know. 100 a year for the last 15, 20 years, I don't know. So what is that up to? 3,000 gigs? But I was rushing. This was a situation where we had the board. I think it was at the girl singer's house because at the time I had no parking. I was parking on the street. So we kept it there where it was safe. And I think I was coming right from a day job or something, rushing, stressed out, running late, loading up the car real quick, and get to the club, open the trunk. I'm like, oh shit. Luckily, it wasn't that far. So I unloaded. I was like, the mixing board is gone. She's like, you forgot the mixing board? I'm like, no, we forgot the mixing board because we both loaded the car together. So... sometimes when you're stressed out and rushed, you forget simple things. So unloaded to the club, everything that we had. I'm like, you guys continue to set up. I'm going to go get the mixing board. Luckily, it was only like 25 minutes away. And I'm hoping I went a little fast. I'm hoping not to get stopped by the cops. Got the mixing board, came back, started barely on time, maybe a little late. Stressful. That was one of the more extreme things, but I have a lot of stories where it's just like most of my career has been 5 minutes to go on, and I got 20 minutes work setting up the PA to do, but we got to go on time, and I'm dripping sweat, and my guitar isn't even set up or tuned up, and and then we got to boom, 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 plug it in, boom, boom, hope it works, and then Dave sing. So it's I think you need to go through that though, because I know some people are prima donnas. They're like, well, I have to be backstage and get my mind together. I'm like, what do you? I have a friend who was an actor, and they're doing, I won't mention it, but was doing a show, and I had called them, or texted them before, like before the show, asking something about, when they start or something, and they got really angry. They're like, "Don't call me right before a show. I need to get in, backstage. I'm gonna have to get into character." I'm like, "That's, dude. I've done. I mean, I'm not an actor, but I've done a million performances where I got to sing in front of 1,000 people, like that, and I don't have time to get into freaking. I am dripping, drenched in sweat." Lugging gear in, hooking it up, testing the speaker doesn't work. I'm stressing out trying to figure out why, which cable is bad. With drunk people walking into you, smoking into your face, and then the club owner saying why you guys aren't going on. You got to go in 5 minutes, and then you got to okay, tune up the guitar. Oh, Dave, we're starting really. Okay, yeah. Boom, drummer starts going, and you got to sing. 1,000 gigs like that. So I don't get that whole concept of, I have to get into my right mental. What? I mean, it's wonderful sometimes when you're playing gigs at a casino where you just show up, and they sound you just show up. It's not even, you don't even need to bring a mic, maybe you bring an amp and guitar. They mic it for you. They sound check it for you. They're like, do you want to have, how is your monitor mix? Oh, I like to have a little less low end in my monitor. I like, it's a little too loud, or I need a little more, whatever, the bass in my whatever in the monitor. That's like a luxury. That, to me, that's like, wow, this is like vacation time, and those are fun, because you just could just play usually, although sometimes you get bad guys and your monitor mix is just butchered, and it's like, dude, we should just brought our own PA. Once in a while you have that. I had one guy where the guy doing the monitor mix blasted my drummer's monitor, like blasted it, and the whole song, but the drummer's like waving to the guy in the back, like, he's like, and the guy wasn't paying attention, he wasn't looking, he was, one of those set it and forget it guys, I guess. And my drummer got so after the song, he just walked off the stage. He was so pissed. He's like, I'm not going back on. Luckily, it was like the last song of the night, but people wanted like one more song, with a one more song thing. He refused to do it because he was so pissed. He's like, he like caused ear damage because the guy was blasting the monitor so loud, and he was telling the whole song, turn it down, And this guy's a professional. Like this drummer wasn't like a bush league guy. He'd done albums with like famous people, like famous people, lots of them. So this guy was a touring professional, had been on albums that you've heard on the radio, but sometimes people, you just have enough. So it's frustrating. So Lyra, One Love, Dave. Are you saying do the song One Love, or are you just saying, hey, One Love? Either way. Well, but we do some Bob Marley. So on the stream, we're doing a stream on every Saturday at 9:30 with Karina, and we do have like a few Bob Marley tunes that we do. So if you're on, request. One Love isn't, we don't know that one, but where's the blue? Yeah, John was asked. John Boldino. It's funny, I was just showing that. I'll show it to you. Hold on. I got it. John wants to see the blue guitar. Again, here we go. John, is this the one you're talking about? It's the blue Dean made in USA Starburst. This is like circa 1982. So I had this since, I got this used and, for not a lot of money. I was probably like $500 back in the day. Probably, it's a cool sounding guitar. I was back in my metal days, but we played, I have videos. Yeah. So we played stuff like Ain't Talking About Love and The Trooper of Iron Maiden, all that stuff back in the 80s on this. These days I'm more into, it's a cool guitar. This is long before Dimebag Darrell was playing the Dean Flying V's because he was more, you know, a little bit later than when I got this. But it's, you know, we do some Pantera. I don't even have a pick, so I can't even play it. But you wouldn't hear it because they're not plugged in. But anyway, there's the Dean. It's got a good sound. It's got a good sound. Dean makes good guitars. It's another one of those companies that's underrated. You get them relatively inexpensive. They make good quality guitars for the most part. You know, Fenders and Gibsons, you're paying for the name. Don't let them know I said that. I mean, I don't know, some of these Les Paul, I mean, the Gibson has had all sorts of problems, as most of us have heard it. Gibson is they kind of bankruptcy, but then who knows what they're doing. Now they have a new CEO or whatever, and they're trying to revamp and put new guitars out. And some, I don't know. You can only rest on your laurels of your name for, you know, a couple of decades before it comes back to bite you. When all these other companies are coming biting at your heels, giving better quality, lower prices. You know, PRS. You know, I mean, PRS is good guitars. They're a little bit. I think, I don't know, depending on the model. I don't know if there's consistent quality control, but you know, I've heard and played PRSs and they're really good guitars. I might go for for the money. I might go for a PR. If I wanted that Les Paul-ish kind of sound, I might go for a PRS more than a Les Paul, because you could get a similar kind of sound, and it's really well-made guitars, nice tone, nice even. I have a Tom Anderson that I use that has, you know, it's a Cobra. It's the shape of a Tele, but it has humbuckers. It's got really nice sounding pickups, man. It's really nice sounding guitar. Because I was going through, I have so many guitars and I hadn't played it in a long time. So I'm going through my different guitars and saying, wait, which do I want to sell any of these? And I'd play them, and you know, I bring it out to a gig and see if I still, you know, sometimes it's like, I got all the guitars that, you know, sound like that. So I put them up, but the Tom Anderson, I was like, I could get like $3,000 for this thing, and I played it. I'm like, I'm not letting this thing go because it just sounded so good, and the fingerboard, you know, I haven't been playing it lately because it's a little more of a warmer guitar. It's not as good for funk. It's just, you know, it's for clean, but it's got a really nice sound to it. Although for rock, it's a little less aggressive than Les Paul. It's a little smoother sounding. It's great for session type stuff. It's very smooth, good for fusion. But anyway, great sounding guitar. You know, then I got the Les Paul, but I don't play it that much. It's good for going, you know, the pickups are hotter, so it almost sounds compressed to me, which is, I guess, easier if you're gonna rip. But I need the dynamics. I forget what was the point, but yeah, Bob Marley. If you get on the session Thursday, I mean Saturday 9:30, you request some Bob Marley. We do Could You Be Loved? We do Three Little Birds. What's that one? That's ostensibly that I'll remember them because we haven't done them since before COVID. We were doing, so I might have to brush up, but. That stuff is good, and I was learning jamming, but I haven't. For me, I play and sing, so you could learn the guitar part, you can learn the vocal part, but then that doesn't mean you could do both at the same time. That you know, that's a whole nother. Another mother ball of wax. Certain songs are easier. Certain songs is just strumming a G. Yeah, you can do it all day long. These guys in the cafes with a capo and an acoustic, and they're just strumming G, D, you know, whatever. But when you do something like I forget what I was working on something the other day that was kind of counter, and you know, I mean, even a song like Jenny Jenny, it's syncopated. You know, it took me a while to get that. Now that I got it, it's like second nature. But you know, no woman, no cry. Yeah, it was a lot of songs with the same chord progression. There was actually, I just was watching, my friend Luke had posted something that he noticed, or his son noticed, that the song by Maroon 5 and is the same melody. Whatever. That it's the same melody as Pachelbel's canon in D. You know, it's like something you might hear in the background of a hospital commercial or something. But But then there's another video I saw posted that had a guy that was just joking about, and it's actually I posted it on my timeline, so look for it on the Dave Blair Band timeline. Is a video of this comedian playing a guitar, and he's saying, "I used to play Pachelbel on cello, and now I can't get away from it. I hate that song." And he played like at least a dozen songs that basically stole that progression and melody. It's surprising how many songs have the same. And there's a few videos like that with people doing like the "Don't Stop Believin'" progression. I mean, there's a lot of songs have the same progression: 1-6-4-5, 1-6-2-5, 1-4-5. You know, there's only so many progressions. Unless you're gonna do some weird thing. You know, I mean, I like guys that when they take a progression and they'll twist it around, go from D major to D minor, or do a modulation, and sometimes the Beatles do that. But for the most part, 95% of the stuff, it's like, oh, because I'm playing a band where it's like we have lists of hundreds of songs, and I don't necessarily know all the songs. There's no way I could practice and prepare all those songs, hundreds of songs. So we have people request stuff, and the band, they have like hundreds of tracks for background stuff. So at least we got that, but they'll pull up the track, and me as the guitar player still got to play a guitar over it. And so I got to pick that up real quick. But for most of these, especially the newer stuff, once you hear a turnaround once, it's like, oh, it's like that same progression that all the new bands are doing, and then, I got it. Whereas if you play something that's a little bit older, it's like they're taking it there. Like Higher Love we were doing. That one you can't wing because he's got a lot of stops and changes, and and that the arrangement for the song structure for Higher Love is it was weird when I charted that out, and I was like, oh, and he goes off and does this other thing, and then he comes back, and it's like not verse chorus, bridge chorus. So it's like I'm reading the chart when I'm playing it for that one. But for most of these new songs, I have to figure out the key. I have to figure out the progression, in the first turnaround, basically, and usually get it. It's good for your ear. I mean, you really, as a musician, that's the goal. I think is to be able to hear something and be like, oh, that's a 1-6-2-5. I mean, when I was in music school, you had these jazz classical guys that were like, they could just hear something and transcribe it without even picking up their instrument, in like the right key. I mean, it's like I still can't do that. And my teacher, Don Manzo, he was like that. He could play a Steve Vai CD, the new one, and like transcribe it as it was playing. And then, play it back like, well, or Paul Gilbert things and stuff. I actually sang in a band with him for a little while, and we had stuff with some Mr. Big stuff with Paul Gilbert, and he'd actually transcribe the solo, and for the first rehearsal or so, he'd actually have it like note for note transcribed. Paul Gilbert, if familiar with Paul Gilbert, he's crazy fast, hard to play, like Steve Vai or any of these guys, Yngwie Malmsteen. Paul Gilbert's one of the harder guys to play. Very technical. And he would just be like playing the Paul Gilbert thing, and then flip the page and play the rest of the Paul Gilbert solo note for note, and then you just go out to clubs these days and they can't even play the Sublime solo note for note, or they just jam something that's kind of in the key. It doesn't work. I don't know. That's a whole other thing. But what was my point? I go off on these tangents. It's always interesting, right? I'm just happy that OBS hasn't crashed. Usually the second time around, maybe I should just start it, kill it, restart it, and then maybe it just crashes the first time because it doesn't like me. I don't know. So yeah, Bob Marley will try to do if I remember it. It's tricky because those Bob Marley harmonies, the girls who were background singers for Bob Marley, I think they called themselves the I Tree. I guess because like I'm a person and there's three of them. Those harmonies, the girls had to work a little bit to get those harmonies. And lately it's just been me and one girl, so I don't know. The harmonies might not be obviously like the record because we'll have two voices instead of four. But we'll get by. But maybe we'll do Could You Be Loved or Three Little Birds or There was another one. I had fun on that tune because I have an envelope filter that I use that gives me like wow, wow. He has that little envelope sound that he has on the keyboards. Gives it that reggae kind of vibe. It's always fun to play with. Or you could put a little wah wah in there too. You know, uh, fun. It's always fun when you get to play with new sounds. I have this Bubbletron, which is not really it's an envelope phaser. I also have envelope filters and stuff. But it sounds really cool. It's basically what Zappa used. It's a remodel of what Zappa used on a lot of those, where he did those fast solos with the envelope filter or envelope phaser. So it's a phaser that's dynamic. In other words, if you hit it harder, you get more phase, and if you hit it lighter, you get less phase. It's a really cool effect, and maybe I'll pull that out for Saturday just to play, just for fun. It's nobody. I've not seen anybody else use that effect. It's a very unique effect. It's only one company that makes an envelope phaser that I'm aware of, and that's the Keeley Bubbletron. And I've not seen. It's such an idiosyncratic thing. Gives that one sound. I haven't seen anybody use it. It does get some other sounds too, but that's the sound that I like. And anyway, anybody got any questions or things they want to talk about? See, it's already 10:30. We got a weird start because it worked, and then I crashed, and then I started again, and then it's weird. Everybody came, like before it crashed, there was like one person on at a time, and now there's a lot of, 5 people on right now. I'm going to wave. So we were talking about the Sex Pistols earlier. I'm not going to redo it again, but I was showing the video of the Sex Pistols reunion, which is around 2007. And there's some live shows. And I was saying they're tight they're super tight. The band, I guess they learned how to play their instruments in the last 30 years. But I mean, Sid Vicious never could play bass really. I have to play the Dean guitar on the next gig. Maybe I'll pull it out. So it's a good. I haven't played a song on that probably in years. But it looks cool on the wall. It's weird. I go through periods where I play the same guitar for like 2 years at like every gig, and then I try another one. I'm like, oh, this is cool, and then I'll try that for another 2 years. I don't switch them up that much between gigs because you start getting to vibe and to a feel, and and it just works. But then you get bored with it and you try something else. But I've been digging this GNL Telly lately. It just got a cool punchy sound, but I'm still trying to get used to it. And because of COVID, I haven't really been able to bring it to a tech to tweak it. Although I know how to set up guitars, there's that little extra 10% that a good tech kind of does it better than me. Sometimes they do like a little fret job just to make sure that it was things aren't buzzing and stuff. I tweaked it enough to where I get it in a good place because I know how to set up a guitar. But they usually get it just a little bit better. It's weird. They could look, some of these techs could just kind of look at a guitar and be like, well, it's a little bowed at the 15th fret and there's a little hump. And I'm like, how do you see that? I can never see it. I can see if it's, I can see a little bit of the curve, but, I guess after doing thousands of guitars, these guys are able to do that. But, what was my point? Yes, Saturday. Actually, I have a little banner for it. Let me see if I can find the banner. Here we go. Live Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Facebook.com, Dave Blair Band. Whee! The miracles of OBS. Question Marley was about outdoor gigs. Any memorable ones? It's weird. The girls in the band don't like outdoor gigs. And I'm like, I like outdoor gigs for the most part. He goes, I don't know. The sound, I think it's easier because you're not wearing with echo chamber. There's less chance of feedback, less things bouncing. You have a bigger stage usually. It's like at a festival or something. So it's easier to set up your gear. It's amazing how much faster you could set up your gear when it's just, you could get right behind it, boom, boom, boom. You could set it up really quick. There's a lot of room. You're not bumping into people. It takes twice as long to set up gear when you're in a small corner of a bar and you're bumping into, and you can't set this up until the person finishes their thing, and then they leave, and then you got to go around them to hook the thing, and then you're going behind the wall. It makes things twice as hard when it's up on a big, huge stage in a festival or something, it's so much easier to set everything up because it's just plenty of room. Um, but as far as if the weather is good, it's fresh air, it's good lighting. um, but but you have a situation when the weather's bad. I mean, I've almost gotten electrocuted a couple times because things rained, and even though you got a covering, it somehow pulls up on the stage and getting closer and closer while you're looking at it, and saying, "Oh, if it gets any closer, I can get electrocuted here." Um, or it seems that certain venues, resorts, colleges, they don't seem to understand that to just stand out in the sun for 4 hours straight on a 98-degree day is not a good thing. And so you're out there. They're like, oh, here's a space, and the band could be here. There's an outlet. I'm like, there's no awning or covering. I'm like, well, if it starts to rain, you got $20,000 worth of equipment that's going to get destroyed, or we're going to have to just rush the hell out of it to get it unplugged and inside. Whereas if you just had to spend $100 on Home Depot to get something to cover the band, then if it starts raining, we're not screwed, you know. So that all scares me. But not to mention that in the hot, I've done gigs where it was so hot. We did. Let's see. I remember. I'm trying to think of the hottest gig. The hottest gig was, I forget, was a Rider College or one of the colleges in North Jersey. That was one of them, where it was just we were just out in the hot sun, and there was like a in the quad or whatever they call it, and there was the students there. Fun gig, good band, but it was just so hot, and there was no awning or anything, no umbrella, no fans. I learned on a hot day, if we have an outdoor gig, always bring a fan, even if it's a little fan, makes a big difference, um, because if it's 100 degrees out and you're out in the sun, that fan could save you, but I remember doing that gig and on our break, just being dizzy, and then just going inside to one of the college buildings, just lying on the tile floor, just to get the coolness of the tile to get the body temperature down. That's how bad it was. Like where the next day you're dehydrated, from it. That we did another one of those right at some resort by the pool. They wanted the band by the pool. Great. On the break, I was just so tempted to just jump in that damn pool. But probably not a good idea to be like totally wet and then grab electric guitar and put your mouth, So, but it was really tempting because that day was like 100 degrees in the hot sun. No covering. Come on, guys. Like, we're not, that's tough. And then you got hot lights too, So sometimes you have those situations. I'm trying to think of another one. There was another one we were doing down in Atlantic City. They have a lot of these beach bars, and I forget. I think was it the Tropicana? There's one of them that's really nice. I mean, it's huge. It's just a big boardwalk deck on the beach, but it's huge. It's got like 4 or 5 separate bars, and a big area like the size of half a football field, and a big, huge stage, nice lighting, nice sound. They have a sound crew just for your monitors, a sound crew just for great, great situation. But we get there, and it's one thing is a little tricky with those beach bars. You have to get your gear, and usually they have the PA there, but you still got to bring your amp. So the tricky thing with some of these resort and Atlantic City gigs is you're parking in some parking deck. And then to get to wherever the stage is, whether it's in the hotel on some other floor or if it's on the beach bar, it can take you 15 minutes to get from the car to wherever the stage is. So you got to account for that. And sometimes you get lost. And you got to go through security and whatever. But for that one, some of these beach bars, you have a little boardwalk thing that winds down all the way up to the boardwalk bar, where you have all an amplifier and speaker and mic stands and stuff on the cart, and that's always fun. You have these, the whole band is carrying it. And hopefully, you could do it in one trip, or else you got to go all the way back and get some more mic stands or some more cables. Hopefully, you didn't forget anything. So that's always fun. But you get there. But I remember it's getting there, and this was like our first gig with Donna, like or second. I think no, we did. I hired Donna based on her seeing her at some other band because I thought she was phenomenal. I gave her the set list, and we had no rehearsal or anything. She just showed up the night before. She killed it, and then we had another gig the day after at Atlantic City. So I'd give her 2 gigs, without playing with her, without ever rehearsing with her. But I had seen her play before, and I thought she was great. And we talked on the phone, and I gave her the set list. Nailed it on the Friday night. Nailed it at the Atlantic City Casino on the Saturday. KG. And in real life, we always forget something. Yes. I was telling them the time I forgot the mixing board. I assume KG, that's Karina from the band. It just says KG on there. Is that your new? Oh, you know why? Because I think that comment is from YouTube. Because right now I'm on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch at the same time. So most of these comments are from Facebook, but the KG's comment is from YouTube. And maybe that's why it's not. But I'm assuming that's Karina Gonzalez from the band. And so she understands all these stories about these. I was telling them about the time I forgot the mixing board. Yep, it's me. Great. Karina could probably, one of these times we'll have her here, and we'll have her on a mic herself, and we could do like I could be like Howard Stern, and she could be like Robin Quivers, and we could do the back and forth radio show type thing. That's the closest. I don't know of any other radio show that has two, a guy and a girl hosting, because Joe Rogan is usually by himself, or Eddie Trunk. Anyway, but yeah, remember the time I forgot the mixing board at Blend? That was fun. I had to go. Luckily, it wasn't far, because if it was like Atlantic City. Oh yeah, I have. They can't see the Facebook people can't see the YouTube comments. But I could see them because I have special tools. I could see all the platforms at the same time through what they call consolidated chat. High technology. I think watching it on YouTube, the quality is actually a little better and it crashes less often. But more people are on Facebook. But the cool thing is about simulcasting on YouTube is once I'm done, it saves it, so you could go back and see all. I mean, on Facebook you could see all the live ones if you go through and scroll through from weeks ago or whatever. But if you just want to see all the what do you call it? If you want to see all the old streams or chats or all the live things on YouTube, it's all just in one section. You could just go. It's great. It stores them all like a little archive. So that's pretty cool. So that's the main reason I do that. But yeah, Karina's saying the parking lot was closed. Yeah, Blend was a pretty cool load-in. I love load-ins where it's just an easy load-in. I hate load-ins where it's like you park and then you got to up a ramp and down the thing and upstairs and then the thing. It's just like it makes what? Like whoever designed this club did not design it for live music. And a lot of these places are restaurants and they never designed it for live music. So it's like you're going through the bar, through people, upstairs and the thing and and then you're playing in some area that's like normally there's tables there and then they like clear the tables and it's like your makeshift stage. It's always fun. But then sometimes you have places where I love it. We played, I don't know, this one place it was a couple of summers ago. I was doing something for Cat, and it was some club down the shore, and you pull in, and there's a ramp, like the door's there, and the ramp goes into the stage. I'm like, I love it. So basically, I just took the amp out of the guitar, mucked it on the stage, like 10 feet. I'm like, thank you. Why don't they have every club stage designed like this? Because, people are lugging things in all day, every day. Like you'd think, instead of putting the stage on the opposite end and having them entrance and walk through all the people with carts and saying, excuse me, when the club is busy, and then when you got to unload, doing the same thing, and then the door is locked and you knock on the door and they're not answering, and then somebody's got to go around. It's like, really? Those are fun things. All the fun things, all the glamour of the music world. It's not, these people like in the movies. That's why people say Spinal Tap is more like reality. It is. I mean, that thing in Spinal Tap where they're getting lost backstage and they can't find it and they're like, "Hello, Cleveland." Yeah, they're getting all hyped up, and then they go around and it's the furnace and it's the that that's happens. That happens, especially in these casinos. They're down. They're like mazes. The Crow's. We haven't played in the Crow's Nest for a while. They totally changed everything. They got rid of like all their bands and tried different bands. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe we'll be there again, but we'll, And KG's like, makes you want to get a J job. It's true. I mean, I've done work for a couple of years. I just did music where I just taught and did gigs. And it's not as glamorous. It's cool. I consider doing it again, but it's tricky with the money because you could have, like with this COVID, you go from making money to making all your gigs canceled for months. And same thing with, I mean, you could still do lessons by Skype, but I feel bad for the musicians that I know that are just doing music. But as far as playing, right now we haven't played the Crow's Nest. I mean, nobody's playing anywhere right now. Some clubs are talking about doing something out. Yeah, I've seen a couple of friends starting to do gigs again. Usually some outdoor things. So I know if you want to come see us, Grand Vin, we were playing like every couple of weeks, which is a really cool restaurant in Hoboken. I love it because it's 5 minutes from my house. See, those are I like those gigs. What's your favorite place? The place after we pack up, I'm home in 10 minutes. I've been doing this long enough where that's the exciting part. I mean, it's cool when there's thousands of fans and laser lights and stuff. But if I could get home, pretty quick, that's always a plus because it takes a toll on you after a while, playing till 2 in the morning and getting home at 3 or 4, and getting after lugging gear and all that. I mean, it's still fun, like it, and we've gotten to the point where we could set up a whole PA in 20 minutes. I played with one band. They had like a truck thing, whatever, a whole separate thing just to hold their gear that was behind. What do they call that? I don't know. Like not a camper, but all the gear behind, and the truck would be loaded, and then they have the camper and all these huge speakers and all the cables in different boxes and tangled up and boxes and things, and it was like 2 hour setup. I'm like, dude, I mean, I have things streamlined to the point. Karina knows. I got this PA behind me. You could see it, or you see the PA that we use on the Saturday gigs. It's just basically this one subwoofer with a stick on it, and we can play live. A bigger place, we have 2 of them. See that box right there? That's our mixing board. That connects to Wi-Fi to an iPad. Then obviously you get your mics and mic stands and stuff. But basically, that's the PA, and those RCFs are very powerful. I have yet to push those all the way. I still have behind that curtain over there some bigger 15-inch EV speakers with a 1200 watt PA mixing board that's like 75 pounds, and I'm pretty sure that these RCFs, actually they're more watts. I think they're each side is like 1200 watts or something. Even it's deceptively small, but it's newer technology, really well made, really well designed. They're not cheap, but it's worth it if you're playing every week. Spend the money and you have something that's going to just sound good right out of the box, and it's quick, easy setup. So on one cart you could put 2 of those speakers because that top goes right into the bottom speaker, so it's like one box. And the little mixing board, and you have iPad. And if you forget the iPad breaks, you could actually. We've had gigs where I actually literally mix the band off of my phone because the app works on your phone. It's a little hard to see, but it works. It worked. It was great. So you're never gonna. You can say, "Oh man, what happens if you forget the iPad or it breaks and you can't mix?" Any iPhone, any Droid phone, any iPad will work. So you have like 5 or 6 devices that could, if you have the app. And it also has a monitor app, so the drummer could mix his own monitor mix right in his headphones, off of his phone. Just you gotta. Sometimes they don't do it right, and they not on the right channel. You get usually if you do it once, you'd think they no, but they're set it up on the wrong channel, and they're like, I can't hear my headphones, and they blast it, and all of a sudden your monitors. So, but that's the drummer's fault. It's always the drummer's fault. What was my last time at Sam Ash? Oof, I don't remember. I mean, there's the Sam Ashton Paramus. That's probably the only one I've ever gone to. I mean, the Guitar Centers are all over the place. I don't really go to those stores that often. Um, Most of the gear I buy on Reverb, Craigslist. I mean, for a while I was going to Guitar Center just because there was a guy there that I was revamping all my digital recording setup, and he had helped me ask a lot of questions. I bought the Rosetta, the Apogee Rosetta, when I started setting up the studio. I bought this desk actually, which you can't see, but I have a really nice computer desk at Guitar Center. It was like only $200, and I've had it for over 10 years. It has all the rack gear. Actually, let's see if I can get this film, the camera. You can see my hand. I have a long cable on this, but you could, hold on. It's tangled. Come on. There we go. So you can see, here's the desk. So, messy desk, but this is I got this at Guitar Center, the desk. And well, this Apogee, this is the Rosetta 800. I bought the Rosetta 200, which is basically the computery thing that gets the sound into the computer to convert it into sound into zeros and ones. So I had the 200, which only has 2 channels. When I started needing to do more channels to do the first album, or the second album, I wanted to do drums, so I needed multiple inputs. So I have multiple preamps, like this Jeff Daking preamp. I have this Pacifica preamp here, which you see that really good A Design stuff. Peter Montesi is the guy who owns A Designs, great guy. I always talk to him when he's at the AES convention. And this one is, if you know how to solder, a great bang for your buck are these 7-circle audio preamps. So basically, each one of these is a little preamp, and this one is like a model, a copy of a Neve. This is a copy of a Jensen. This is just a copy of just a regular preamp. But basically, you have to build. You buy this box, and then it has space for 8 of these preamps, and then you could buy the preamps. Now, a Neve preamp is nearly like $2,000. Here you could buy the kit, which it's literally a box of diodes and wires, or not even. It's like a roll of wire, a box of switches and diodes. I mean, it's all in pieces, and it took me probably 12 hours to build. I think it was the Neve. Yeah, I built this one. I built this one, I think, and I built this one. This one I just bought off somebody. It was pre-built. Because after I spent I started like in the morning, and then, I have a Robbie story, John. We could talk about that, but the Neve, I spent like 8 hours doing it. I had a gig that night. Actually burnt my finger right before the gig. Karina probably remembers this. I played like shit all night because my finger was burnt, so I couldn't use that finger, and it actually was hurting really bad. Because I don't know if you ever know anything about soldering. Soldering iron burn hurts a lot. It's worse than like a fire burn. It really, it hurts. It's one of the worst pains you're gonna get. So I'm very careful anytime I do a soldering iron. And you got to be careful because it's attached to a cable, and someone could, pull the cable or whatever, and you really could get burnt. That's a lesson you learn once. Burn yourself with a soldering iron once, that it leaves a mark, and it hurts for days. And one thing I learned, I do not solder anymore right before a gig, because if you burn your finger, that gig is not going to be any fun. I remember having ice, like in between songs, just keeping ice on it, and trying to like play with the other fingers while pulling. Not a good thing. But Robbie's in Mawa. There's a Robbie's was a mini chain. Robbie's was in Mawa, right on the highway there. It looked like a big barn. Cool store. Actually, I had a friend, Greg, who worked there, so I liked it because I would go in there and we would just hang out and play the guitars in there, and he worked there, and we would go hang out after at his house. Cool guy. Actually, I have another story about Greg that's not musical related, but it's kind of an interesting story about this girl we dated. That's a whole other story. Maybe I'll get to it. But he stopped talking to me. And not my fault. Coincidence situation. Anyway, That's a whole nother story. But Robbie's. Okay, so he had multiple stores. He had a store in Mawa. He had another store in, I think, Pearl River. I don't know if it's at least two of them. And he was sometimes at both of those stores. So I had a student. I had a couple of run-ins with the guy, actually. The guy was kind of a jerk. Um, I had something that I bought there that was under warranty, and it broke. And I brought it back to the store. And he was a total jerk about it. I'm like, well, it's under warranty. He's like, that's not my problem. You bought it. You blah, blah, blah. You know, he didn't want to honor the warranty. I'm like, well, usually if, I buy it at Sam Ash and it breaks, they'll send it back, get it repaired, and I pick it up, and it's under warranty. They don't charge me. That's what usually happens. He's like, this has nothing to do with me. But he was just a jerk about it. He wasn't even helpful. He was mean about it and obnoxious. Even if you want to, it's like if it was something that they couldn't deal with or didn't want to deal with, usually like help for you. Oh, you should call the manufacturer and here's the number and whatever. None of that. He was just a jerk. Now, I don't know, like a year later, I had a student of mine that bought a guitar, for their son, and they gave it to him. The girl, the one parent didn't know anything about guitars. She bought the guitar. And I come for the kid's first lesson on this guitar, and I'm testing it, and it's like got a bad buzz on it. It's like the bridge is kind of buzzing, is defective, and I was able to kind of put a makeshift repair. I'm like, dude, you paid for this brand new, it shouldn't be buzzing like that. So I met her at the Robbie's in Pearl River. She's like, could you come and talk to the guy? I don't know how to explain it to him, and I explained. I'm like, this thing has got the bridge is buzzing. And, either maybe you guys could either fix it or switch out the guitar. And the guy flips out. He actually literally took the guitar and slammed it on the counter and walked in the back. He used profanity. He's like, you stupid people, customers wanting their money. And blah, blah. He was a real asshole about it. And since then, I never went in that store again. And he refused, and he started ranting at her. He's like, you know what happened? You left it in the car, and it probably warped, and you don't know how to take care of it, and you bought it, and you probably caused it to warp, and like, and then I talked with another friend of mine who worked at another store. He's like, we probably got them really cheap on like a bulk sale, and they're partially defective, and now he doesn't want to give the money back, and he's probably hearing a lot. That's probably what happened, but he's. So after that, I mean, there's no concept of customer service there. He was just, it's one thing if you can't honor something, be cordial about it to your customers and say like, hey, I can't really help you, or maybe we could at least have one of your techs or somebody try to fix it. And hopefully, she was cool about it. She wasn't she was like not being like a Karen and be like, I need to talk to the manager. I want my money back. No, she's like, hey, my son's guitar teacher says that the bridge is buzzing, and could you either switch it out or repair it? And the guy was flipped. I was dumbfounded. I'm like, what? Why is this guy? He literally flipped out. He was like yelling, and he slammed it on the guitar on the table. I'm like, that's not helping. So we took it. I just fixed it for her for free. Never went back. I never went back there again. So yeah, even though it's a cool store, I liked to go into the one because it was just so big and they had a lot of cool gear in there. And I bought a lot of stuff. The thing is, I spent lots of money in that store up till then. I bought a drum machine there. I bought a guitar there. I bought an amp there. I had spent a lot of money in that store, way more than what that little guitar was worth. He just lost a customer for life. I probably was spent. I mean, that's just stupid. How do you're rude to a customer? Now you just lost. Someone who at the time I was teaching, I had a ton of students, so I told all my students about it and said, don't go there. The guy's a jerk. He's not going to honor the warranties on stuff. Go to Sam Ash or go wherever. So I know how much just from that and my word of mouth telling people not to go there and me not going there, he easily lost thousands of dollars of business because he didn't want to do a $25 repair. That's just stupid. That's just bad business. I don't know if he's still in business, but I don't get that because certain people are super cool. I know it's a tough business, and sometimes dealing with customers is tricky because they always want things a certain way. They always want to talk to the manager, but come on, he was off the rails there. So anyway, the story about a friend of mine worked at the Robbie's in Mawa. I think his name was Greg. This is back in college, and he was dating some girl that I had never met, and he had called me and asked me something about. He wanted to do something for this girl. I won't get into the details, but he's like, oh, this girl likes this, and could you know where I could get this or whatever, and whatever. Didn't think much of it. We hung out, and then I was in college, and I don't know, months later, we was doing a gig at like a party, and one of the girls who was the manager of the band, her friend, you know, liked me, so we wound up hooking up. We wound up starting a date. Okay, one day this girl's at my apartment. I was probably like 19 at the time in college, and we had an apartment, and she's just flipping through my phone book. Later, I realized that that's probably a red flag right there. Girl flipping through your phone book. That's another story. Let me tell you about that. But one story at a time. Let me tell you those two stories, and then we'll end. But they're two interesting stories. Stream of consciousness here. Okay, so she goes through the book, and she's like, "Oh, you know Greg? His last name, which I won't say. You know Greg? I used to date Greg." I'm like, "You used to date Greg? I'm friends with Greg. We're pretty good friends. I've been hung out at his house. He works at Robbie's." So I didn't realize this, but he was like in love with her. Like she broke up with him long before me. She had broken up with. He was just like she was dating some other guy kind of seriously, and she had a fling with him when they broke up, and then dumped him or whatever. And he was like in love with her, and it was upset. And he had told me about this, but I didn't know it was the same girl. Like months before, this girl, and she had even told me stories about this other guy, and I never knew it was this guy. So it turned out to be a friend of mine that I was dating her, and she had dumped him, and she was still in love with her. So she called him just to say, "Hey, guess what? I know Dave. I'm dating Dave now." Not thinking much of it. And I was like, "Hey, Greg, it's just, coincidence, anything." I didn't think too much of it. He apparently didn't, red flags. He apparently didn't, he rubbed it the wrong way. I can understand that. I didn't, not my fault. I didn't steal him from her. I didn't even know till we were dating for like a couple of months that they even knew each other. It was a coincidence. But he was like, he came to me, he's like, "Dave, I want, he had let me some tapes, like some Steve Vai tapes, cool stuff. And he's like, "I want my tapes back." And he wasn't mean about it, but he like came, I was like, "Oh," he came to her house because I was kind of staying there a lot to get the stuff. He came to her house. He's like, "I know where that is." Got the tapes. I never heard from him again. Never called me up. Never, So I guess he wasn't cool with that situation, but not my fault. Not my fault. It was just a weird coincidence. But he was a cool guy. Up to then, we were totally cool. But yeah, awkward situation. And red flags up and down. But yeah, the story about the phone book. I don't know if I ever told anybody this, but this was funny. There was some red flags there. So this girl was looking through my phone book, and I figured I'm in classes, and she's in my room back at it wasn't a dorm. We had like an off-campus apartment with like 5 other guys. But she was hanging out in my room. I figured she's bored. This is before Wi-Fi. And she's, just hanging out in my room, flipping through my books and stuff, whatever. Listening to, so she was flipping through. I had nothing to hide. But later on, I looked through the phone. I happened to be going. This is back before cell phones, so I literally had a phone book, paper with, I had found this. I stumbled across this, and every girl's number in the phone book was changed. So if it was a 4, it was changed to an 8. A 1 was changed to a 7. And it was obvious. It was very obvious. Red flags up and down. Red flags. I should have known right then. Jealous, a little suspicious. And apparently her previous boyfriend was a cheater and liar and all that. I'm like, I'm not like that, but I guess she was burnt once, and but to do that so early on in a relationship, if a month in or something, she's just going through my phone book, changing the numbers of every girl that's in there. And some of these girls were friends. The girls that I've been friends with 10 years, I knew the number, so it was like, wait a minute, that's not her number. It's, and I was actually always friends with. I had a lot of friends that were girls, I was got along with girls really well. I mean, some of them might have been a girlfriend or girl that I like, but most of them were friends that I would just hang out with. A lot of the people I hung out with in high school were girls. We hung out. There was groups of us, cliques that there's some girls, some guys, and we'd hang out all together all the time. Take the car, go wherever, go to the mall. That was So it's like, hey, that's not Karen's number. That's not Tiffany's number. What? And it was like, I put two and two together. I should have known right then. I never mentioned it, never confronted with it. But that red flags. Now red flags isn't about that person. The red flags is kind of about some other. Well, I mean, it's a comment. I've seen it. It wasn't even about one person specifically. I've seen it with multiple. I've seen it with myself where I didn't notice a red flag. I've seen it with my sister dating somebody. I'm like, what are you doing? Why do you keep going back to the person? He's a jerk. You could do better. And even this other girl that I liked was dating some guy that was a loser, and she'd tell me about these things. I'm like, dude, like red flags. Like, what really? Like, really? So good song. And the funny thing is, I wrote that song, and she had heard it. I didn't tell her. And then later on, like a year later, I'm like, that song was kind of about your situation. Like, I got the idea from you. She's like, yeah, I kind of guessed. I kind of thought that. I just, So that was funny. That was a funny situation. So she kind of knew that. She kind of guessed that might have been because I mean, if someone writes, how about this? If someone writes a song, "Red Flags," one of your friends writes, and you assume that maybe they're writing it about you and your relationship, that's a red flag right there. It's like, hello. So that song needs to be out there more because people should be sending that song to all their friends and say, listen, this is you. But anyway, Boss pedals. I have a lot of pedals. I haven't used. Boss makes good pedals, and back in the day, in the '80s, they were probably they only had like three or four big, Boss, MXR, Ibanez. I mean, but basically, if you had pedals since the '80s, it was if you had pedals in the '80s, it was Boss or MXR for the most part, and then we got into the rack units like the Quadraverbs and stuff. But now there's so many boutique companies. There's nothing wrong with Boss. I mean, Prince uses Boss pedals, or used the Boss pedals, and I see a lot of I look at the pedal boards for some of these famous guys on tour or whatever, and I usually see something Boss. Can't go wrong. They're well made, consistent, But there's just so many cool boutique companies out now that have pedals out that do all sorts of crazy stuff. I have like a dozen different gain pedals, and I'm like, I noticed this one has a little bit too much high, tweaking. I'm always tweaking. There's certain things certain pedals I really like. I have this RMC3 wah pedal. It's the best wah pedal I ever used. It's just warm. It's got real vocal quality, so it's wah 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 instead of some of the wah pedals that I've used in the past. It's just wah wah wah. It's just like a EQ, but this sounds like you're talking. It sounds this is that old school Jimi Hendrix, or like the SRV, wow wah 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 wah. Really dig that pedal. I mean everything. I mean I love my MXR Phase 90 script logo, which has that sound of the 70s. Those are two that I probably wouldn't trade out. I have a JS Prestige, which is basically just it's just a clean boost. So if I'm taking, because sometimes you want to do a lead, but you're doing like something's a swing. You for that lead to pop out, you need to increase the volume, or else it just gets buried. But you don't want to add distortion. It's clean, so it's a clean lead for country or something's a swing lead. So you want a clean boost. So it just pushes the clean sound forward a little bit, gives it a little more compression. So I use that for that. It's a really cool pedal. And compressors. I mean, I have a Alexander F13 flanger, which is really cool. That's when you're hearing when we do Purple Rain. It's that sound. It's a nice. It's not the flanger that he used on Purple Rain. I think he used a Boss flanger, but this is a really nice sounding flanger. It's just smooth and warm, and it's cool. Dig it. I have a Zen Drive, which for lead boosts where I want like a really searing lead. I'll use this a Zen Drive, a love pedal, Zen Drive. And I had two different ones, and this one goes for $300. I bought it. I got a lot of the pedals I got on clearance. Sometimes a company has a clearance, and I'll just buy 5-6 pedals at once for cheap, and because it's on clearance, I'll keep the one or two I like and sell the rest for more than I paid for 'em. Love Pedal does that like once a year. Uh, and actually, I bought like five last time Love Pedal had a clearance, and I got like uh, a purple plexi for like $100. I mean, I remember using it lately, but it's a really good sounding pedal. Uh, there's a few of them. I think I sold one of them, or no, they have a fuzz. Actually, I think I have all of them still because I think they all were pretty good. An Amp 11, they're all really good. Just I haven't, you know, my current setup, I'm not using them. But anyway, I forget what my point was. I have a compressor on there that I use because I'm doing a lot of clean stuff, and it's kind of like smooths out the compression, it smooths out the clean signals. Gives a little bit of nice warmth. And I have a Metropolis Super Boost, which is just a clean boost. It kind of just pushes everything forward and pushes the amp to give it a little more of a cranked amp sound without cranking the amp. It's kind of a cool pedal. It's a nice forward sound. It's almost transparent. Between that and the compressor, it just kind of keeps those on all the time, and it just pushes the sound a little forward. And then the Plexi Drive I just used to get a crunchy sound. I'm not in love with the Plexi Drive, but it's working. So, and the thing I like about the Plexi Drive, it's got lots of EQs and switches to tweak it. So even if it's not the best sounding one I've ever tried, I could always dial it in whatever guitar I have. So it's a nice working thing. Karina was like, big red flag. But the phone number thing, I could do a whole album of just listing different red flags that I've seen, either myself. Oh, if the subject was red flags that you've seen, I don't know. I bet people could post a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to think of what's another red flag I've seen, that I've experienced in the past. Well, I was, what was funny? I was watching the movie. It's not my kind of movie. It just happened to be on. Was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And it's kind of funny that we're talking about that because she was doing all these things to try to lose a guy in 10 days. And really clingy, needy, weird, all the stuff that kind of women do that's messed up and kooky, but to like the extreme. Like super needy, like calling him like 15 times a day and at work, and pulling him out of meetings, saying it's an emergency. Oh, I just wanted to say I miss you, and when girl I had, she got an anniversary card every month, like every month. This is our 4th month anniversary, and I got a card, and I know it's a terrible movie, but it's still it's a good watching it. It's like I remember dating a girl that did that. I remember a girl, just annoying, the clingy, needy thing. I mean, some of my early relationships were like that, and then I got away from that. I just run away from that because it's just, you don't know in the first few relationships, you don't realize that that's not, especially as a musician. She had in that movie. She was like trying to pull him away from the basketball game or whatever. He was really into basketball. But I've had with the musician thing, I've had women that were like, "Oh, you're always at rehearsal, and you don't spend time with me and all that." It's like later. That's as a musician, that's just not gonna work. The clean you need, it's I run from that. That I could tell. Yeah, there's stories of that, the whole clingy, needy thing. And then again, red flag. Like I've had friends that were like, Dave, they would take me aside and be like, Dave, that's, we're worried about you. It seems like, she's a little controlling and she's a little jealous. And, she'd like, if I had a female friend that would call, she'd be like, or, I remember one time, and I had a lot of female friends, so I didn't think anything of it. So I'd come visit her or whatever. And she's like, where were you today? I'll be like, oh, I was with Regina. Not thinking nothing of it because I was hanging out with Regina for, years. We were good friends. She lived down the street from me. We grew up, I was like, we were Virginia. We went to the mall, and she would be like, weird, like weird about it, like, what did you do? What did you do with her? And you're sleeping with her, aren't you? I'm like, we've been friends for like 10 years. We've never even dated. Why would I now that I'm dating you all of a sudden start sleeping with her? to cheat on you. You're like, hello, it doesn't make any sense, you know. Um, but some people are, that red flags up and down. It should be like you should have a button that just plays that chorus anytime we talk about, Or I think maybe I could make some money. I could get like a little app or something that just play, or they could play the button. They have those machines that like just do a fart sound. It could just be like press the button, red flags up and down. Anytime you're with somebody and it's like, oh, my boyfriend's, he's jealous and red flags up and down. Could be the new meme, right? But the clingy needy thing. No, those people I've dated in my adult or older life, it's more they have their own thing going on. I'll see you when I see you. Which is cool. Because if both people are mature and have their act together, have their life together, there's no ego thing. It's not like you don't love me enough, you don't pay attention to me. It's like I got shit to do, you get shit to do. But when we have time, let's hang out because we like each other. Cool. Okay, that's an adult normal relationship. At least for a musician, I was watching something that was referring to that. I forget what it was. I don't know if it was something on psychology, Jordan Peterson or something like that, talking about relationships and, but yeah, and I forget where I've read something where, oh, it was, who's that comedian? Who's like kind of politically incorrect. He has a talk show, and he's always talking about how women are crazy. Bill Burr. He's always talking about women, and women write him letters. Yeah, I was listening to this the other day. So some woman wrote into a letter about how her husband her boyfriend was screwing up because he was spending, time working, and he was doing, was trying to focus on his career, and he wasn't spending time with her, and he was screwing up. He was going to lose her, and he reamed this girl. He's like, this guy is trying to make a better life. He's trying to struggle and work hard, and he's working extra hours to build a life so he could do something. So by the time he's 39, he's not a total loser. He's actually done something with his life, and you're getting on his case because he should spend time with you, And then, of course, what happens is if a guy doesn't do anything with his life in 39, that's when the girl dumps him because he's a loser. The Bill Burr is great because he just, he holds no, he's politically incorrect and, well, it was Bill Burr that was saying that. But he's funny and he's just no holds barred, totally politically incorrect. Bill Maher's also funny a different way. But Bill Maher's more political, where Bill Burr is just talking about women in relationships and stuff like that. But I like politically incorrect things because it's like this. I always like politically incorrect things, because it's like, why, there should be no reason that you can only talk about certain things. George Carlin would joke about, you could joke about anything. You could joke about people flying off on a roller coaster and dying. It's funny, it can be funny. Anything can be funny. That's how we deal with difficult. You could joke about cancer. If I had cancer, I'd probably kind of try to find a funny joke so it would make me feel better about having cancer, So anyway, there's no reason to, now this is a music podcast, or, and I definitely don't want to get into politics because there's too much of that right now on the Facebook. People arguing about this, the politics and all that. That's if I want to do that, that's a whole nother show. We're talking about fun stuff like music and stuff, life. Bill Maher is the one with the show called Politically Incorrect. Yes, well, his old show was called Politically Incorrect. His new show is called something else. Because the ironic thing is that Politically Incorrect, and I'm not going to talk about politics, but just since we're talking about this show, just historically, he had a show called Politically Incorrect, and he was taken off the air for saying something that was politically incorrect. And he's still, to this day, he's like, that's the name of the show. He said something about, because it was after 9/11, and he said something about 9/11, and he got taken off the air. And then he started another show that's more popular than that ever was. That's on HBO. I know the theme song. I don't know the name of the show. I'm a musician. I know the theme song. And it's kind of, the theme song I think is stolen from Tupac's California, because it's the same bass line. See, that's what I remember. I don't remember the name of the show where they talked about, but I remember the bass line. Let's see. The theme of the Bill Maher show is which is kind of the same bass line as what you hear in California Love by Tupac. California Love. It's very similar. It has a little chromatic half-step thing. But anyway, I don't know if anything else you want to. That's as far as this show, as far as political, I'm gonna get. But yeah, it's funny that things tie together because the Bill Burry was talking about clingy women, and here's the thing, philosophically, and it is, I think it was David Dieta who wrote a book on about this type of thing, like to be. He has a book called The Way of the Superior Man. I think it's David Dieta. And it's not about superior, people get bent out of shape because of the name superior. It means how to be a better man or how to be the best man you could be, basically. And what he says is that, in a relationship, you need to be a better man. You need to have like a mission or something that really, whether it's whatever it is. You could be a doctor trying to save people. You could be a research scientist. You could be a musician trying to create great music. You need something that makes you, that's your mission, your thing, And and women respond to that. Like if you're on a mission, even if your mission is I'm going to Africa to help kids with malaria, if something that's a big deal, that is a mission besides just the normal I'm gonna get up and watch TV, go to work, come back, if you're on a mission that just people respect you more, women respect you more, and most women who are have self-esteem and are intelligent appreciate that and get that. And sometimes they may be like, oh, you need to spend more time with me. But at the end of the day, David Ditas writes something like, even when women say that, if you then give into that and give up your dream or your mission or take away from that because you just, you don't want to they're saying it. They actually want, at the end of the day, don't respect you for that. Like if you say, hey, I got my thing to do, and you don't, they respect that at the end of the day more. They have, even though they might whine about it at the time, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you're doing your thing. You're doing, like you see in the Humphrey Bogart in a movie saying, hey, baby, I got to do this, or, whoever. I won't say John Wayne because, everybody hates John Wayne these days because of stuff he said. But I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about music and art and movies and stuff. I like to talk about movies, too. Well, I like, I was talking about somebody. One idea I had, I thought would be a cool idea, is having a band that was a tribute band that just did music that was in Quentin Tarantino movies. That would be a cool show, and just have people dressed up in like, maybe have the girl dressed up like it's the Kill Bill, the girls from Kill Bill or something, and then have one, maybe the other guy dressed in the black tie from Reservoir Dogs. And that could be, and then you could just do because there's just so much great music in the Quentin Tarantino movies. He's really great at picking songs for his movies. That could just be a whole night. You could just do it, and then and behind it have like clips from the different movies. There's some so great. There's Kool and the Gang songs like Jungle Boogie. There's Steeler's Wheel. He's run the gambit from soul and R&B to rock to Anyway, that's just. I'm a movie buff too. I like Daniel Day-Lewis and great actors and stuff like that. So, yeah, 10 Lose a Guy in 10 Days. No, that's not one of my favorite movies. It was just on. Sometimes you've worked all day and you just whatever's on and it's silly and stupid. I'm usually playing guitar anyway, so it's on in the background. So yeah, there's a lot of stupid movies like. If it's on, I'll watch it. Like Devil Wears Prada or whatever. For some reason, I've watched, But there's certain those movies that if they're on, I'm watching that, Mean Girls was on the other day, and I watched it for the 20th time probably. That, I like that. That's a good movie. I don't care. That's a funny movie. It's a funny movie, and it's clever, and it even has some sociological little comments in there about how, girls are, and it's, that's a good movie. I like that movie. What's another good movie? I don't know. See? All right. Yeah, we agree on that. And it's funny, just random thought on movies. Glengarry Glen Ross. Who has seen Glengarry Glen Ross? Because it's funny, because I quote movies once in a while just for fun in different situations. And lately at work, I was quoting Glengarry Glen Ross for some reason. And people were like, what? But I never heard that quote before. Like coffee is for closers. Or I was joking around about something. And they were like, what does that mean? You know? I'm like, you never saw Glengarry Glen Ross? Coffee is for closers? If you have not, you know what? I'm going to play just a little clip of it. Because I can. If just, I can't play the whole scene because then Facebook will ding me. But let me just, that's the last thing I'll do because it's getting late. And I want to eat a snack or something. Glengarry. Okay. So this is Alec Baldwin. I'm going to play a little bit of this.
Uh-huh. The rich get richer. That's the law of the land. Who belongs to the BM?
It is 7:30.
So who is that?
You know, that's
And
not
where's
good.
Mr.
A woman in White Plains. What did I do?
Anyway, let me skip
Where's
to the
Mr.
part.
Roman?
Well, I'm not a leash, so I don't know, do I?
Bitching about that sale you shot. Some son of a bitch don't want to buy land. Somebody don't want what you're selling. Some broad you're trying to screw, so forth. Let's talk about something important. Are they all here?
All but one.
Well, I'm going anyway. Let's talk about something important. Put that coffee down.
Jack Lemmon, great actor. You get like 5 great actors. Kevin Spacey,
Coffee's for closers only.
Al Pacino, but he's not in this scene.
You think I'm fucking with you?
I'm not fucking with you.
I am not fucking with you. I'm here from downtown.
I'm down here from
I'm here
Mitch
from
and
Mitch
Murray.
and Murray.
I know this like.
And I'm here on a mission of mercy. Your name's Levine.
Call yourself a
You
salesman.
call yourself a salesman, you son of a bitch?
I don't gotta listen to this shit.
No,
You
you
certainly
don't.
don't, pal. Because the good news is you're fired. The bad news is you've got just 1 week to regain your job, starting with tonight.
Anyway, that's. I mean, it's a 7-8 minute scene, but let me clip. There's a couple of cool clips in this though. It's Alec Baldwin's great.
What's your
in this.
name?
Fuck you! That's my name.
I love that. That's a great line.
You're weak. I've been in this business 15 years.
What's your name?
Fuck you! That's my name. You know what?
I would love a situation where I could use that line. I want to be in a meeting where I could be like, "Fuck you, that's my name." But anyway, there's some great quotable lines in that movie. Just the scene with Alec Baldwin is worth the price of the movie, you know. And the rest of the movie is good. I mean, there's some good scenes with the end with Al Pacino. I often quote, you know, when he loses the sale because of Kevin Spacey and Al Pacino is reaming him out. He's like, you stupid fucking cunt, or whatever. I feel I sometimes wind up saying that, but not, you know, and I'm like, where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, Al Pacino. But sometimes that happens. Usually I'm yelling at my computer when that happens. But anyway, that's a great scene. Maybe next time I'll play a little more from it. But I mean, come on, just you know, there's a lot of great lines that Alec Baldwin has. This was originally a play, and then they translated it to the screen and did quite well. I mean, you got Kevin Spacey, you got Jack Lemmon, you got Alec Baldwin, you got Al Pacino, and I forget this guy's name, but he's a good actor too. And you know, I mean, Jack Lemmon is great in this. He plays like this meek kind of salesy salesperson guy, and you could see him at the end. He has a dialogue with Kevin Spacey where he's like calling Kevin Spacey an idiot, but then he gets then he has a situation where he's kind of has to backpedal a little bit, and he becomes meek again. It's just great acting. Jack Lemmon is just a classic. But anyway, It's getting late. I got stuff to do. This is a long one. I started out with nobody on there, and then a lot of people wound up coming on, so I started rambling. But it's cool. We're having some fun. What movie is that from? Having some fun. I should do a podcast just with movies too. We're having some fun. Having some fun. That was nobody could guess. That was what was the guy's name? I should know. Duke. The in Predator, black guy in Predator, when he's chasing the Predator and he's like, we're having some fun. We're having some fun. You know. That his name is his last name is Duke. It's just let's Google this guy. Predator. No, Bill Duke. Bill Duke. He's still around. I saw him. They interviewed him about something recently. Boom. He's a good actor. Predator is a great movie. That's a classic. I could watch that movie. There's certain movies you could just watch over and over again. It was just a well done, great, well done movie. Look, oh yeah, Karina's looking for Saturday. People requested that we do Bob Marley, and I found the tracks for the Bob Marley, so hopefully we could remember the harmonies and stuff. And I learned a Sex Pistols song, and I got the tracks for that. And then we could continue on whatever else. So hopefully we could do like Gonna Do. I'd like to do Blameless, but you probably, I don't know if you know the harmony for that, but that's a cool one. You don't even have to do the harmony that's on the record, but some harmony. But anyway, we'll figure it out. But at least Red Flags, obviously, that's the hit lately. I don't know. And then Gonna Do. I have some people like Sun in the Rain, and people like What Would You Do? But live, they're slower, so depending if somebody requests that. But definitely Red Flags, definitely Gonna Do. And eventually we'll do Matter of Time and Blameless in there too, because those are fun upbeat tunes as well. Cool. Yes. And there's a harmony. I think I sent you the song. There's a little harmony on the chorus there. You'll be surprised. It's coming together pretty good. Because I try songs out, and sometimes it's like, this isn't working. And other times it's like, oh, this is cool. It's just fun. And I'm just working on my best Johnny Rotten. Sun and Rain. We could do Sun and Rain. Johnny Rotten has a very distinct style of singing, phrasing and stuff. It's like Johnny Rotten is like almost like he's like, yeah, like some kid like, yeah, no, nah, like everything he writes just has that no. It's like, yeah, save the queen, nah, It's not exactly like that, but he's that little twang and everything he sings, and he just goes up, Anyway, don't worry, it'll be better than that. I'm just trying to joke around, but anyway, no, I got it. It's pretty good. I was surprised because I never did that song before, and I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I recorded myself on the iPad, and sometimes I play it back. I'm like, oh, that sounds better than it felt. Anyway, that's gonna be fun. Anyway, let me go and practice something. Let me Saturday 9:30, and I gotta find the window that has. Where did OBS go? Here he goes. Saturday 9:30 live. Facebook.com Dave Flipper Band. Karina will be here singing, mocking tone. Johnny Rotten with his mocking. He's always, and I was just showing these guys earlier. You missed it, but I was showing them the Sex Pistols concert for the 2007. They had a reunion, and they actually learned to play their instruments. Because if you listen to the old Sex Pistols stuff with Sid Vicious, he could not play, and obviously he's not in the band anymore because he's dead. But the people that were in the original band play a lot better, and they're just so tight. And then they have, I think, a session guy on bass. I think it's original members on drums and guitar. I think this might be a second guitar player. Anyway, they were fantastic live. Check that out. Anyway, and check that out. Glenn Ross. And check us out Saturday, 9:30, live. Saturday. You can tell I do voiceover work on the side. See you guys.